Hello everyone, this is part 6 for the past year NIT questions of the chapter Molecular Bases of Inheritance. So let's begin. Anticodon is an unpaired triplet of bases in an exposed position of mRNA, rRNA, tRNA, sRNA. So what is the answer? Anticodon. So what is anticodon? There is always codon-anticodon interaction, right? So where are codons present? The codons are present on mRNA, which recognize or bind to the anticodon by complementary base pairing in tRNA. Okay, so the right answer here is tRNA. tRNA works as an adapter molecule for carrying amino acid to the mRNA templated during protein synthesis. Okay, it bears anticodon and recognizes specific codon on mRNA and helps in the process of translation. Okay, so anticodons are always present on tRNA. Right option is C. Initiation codon of protein synthesis in eukaryotes is, again, learning the initiation codon and stop codon is very important. Okay, also try to learn all the codons for the amino acids, but if not, definitely the start and stop codon. So the initiation codon, also called as the start codon of protein synthesis, is what? GUA, GCA, CCA or AUG. So what is the right answer? The right answer is AUG. Okay, so AUG is the start codon. The initiation codon is the codon which initiates the protein synthesis. They are AUG for methionine and GUG for valine. Okay, in some species it is also GUG, but mostly it is AUG. So always it is AUG in initiation codon. So the right option is D. DNA replication is what? It is conservative and discontinuous, semi-conservative and semi-discontinuous, semi-conservative and discontinuous, and conservative. So what is the right answer? So whenever there is DNA replication, there are two strands, right? One strand and two strands. And how does the process of DNA replication takes place? The two strands are then replicated so that there are two new strands, and then the two strands of the old strands go to two different DNA molecules. Okay, and then these are the new strands that are synthesized. So in the new DNA molecule, one of the old strand is conserved. It's only one of the old strand that is conserved. Therefore, it is semi-conservative. Okay, that is the meaning of semi-conservative, that only one of the strand is conserved in the new DNA molecule after DNA replication. And then DNA replication is semi-discontinuous. And why is that? This is because when there is formation of replication fork, the leading strand is synthesized continuously, whereas the lagging strand is synthesized discontinuously. And why is that? This is because DNA polymerase can add nucleotides only in 5', 3' direction. Okay. So the right answer here is B. DNA replication is semi-conservative and semi-discontinuous. Very important concept. Okay. If you don't remember, then you can go back through the videos or your chapter and then just revise it. What base is responsible for hotspots for spontaneous point mutations? Is it adenine? Is it 5-bromouracil? Is it 5-methyl cytosine, or is it guanine? Again, it is a direct question. What base is responsible for hotspots for spontaneous point mutations? Which is the spot where spontaneous point mutation takes place? So what is the right answer? The right answer is C, 5-methyl cytosine. The term hotspot was used by Benzer, and again, you can add this name to the list of your scientists. Make a list of the scientists because names of the scientists are very important. The term hotspot was used by Benzer for the sites which are more mutable than the other sites. Studies in the 1978 revealed that 5-methyl cytosine residues occur at the position of each hot spot. Okay, if you did not know this information, then just remember this, that 5-methyl cytosine is present in the hotspot position, and hotspots are the places where mutation takes place. They are more mutable than other sites. So the right answer is C. DNA elements which can switch their position are called exons, introns, cistrons, transposons. So if you know this answer, it is a very direct question. Sometimes, you can adapt another strategy, that is negation. DNA elements which can switch their position. Do exons switch their position? No. Introns, they are the intervening sequences between exons. They never switch their position. Cistron is a component of DNA that codes for polypeptide. It never switches the position. So what is the answer? It is transposons. Okay. So sometimes, you can use this strategy also to answer some of the questions. Although it's always nice if you know the right answer. But if you have any confusion, just follow the principle of negation. Try to negate as many options as you can. So transposons are sequences of DNA that can move around to different positions, okay, within the genome of a single cell. And this process is called as transposition, okay, because they position themselves in different positions and from that transpositions. In the process, they can cause mutations and change the amount of DNA in the genome, okay. And that is why transposons are also called as jumping genes or mobile genetic elements. Okay, so for example, let's say this is the double-stranded DNA molecule and then this is the sequence of the transposon. So what will happen now? It can just go in the next round of replication or wherever, and it can just go and bind to another area of the DNA. Okay, that is how basically, and that is why it is called as jumping genes, and it will also change the amount of DNA in the genome. It was discovered by Barbara McClintock. Again, you should remember the name of the scientist. Early in her career, the topic went to be a Nobel-winning work in 1983, There are variety of mobile genetic elements and they can be grouped based on their mechanism of transposition. Okay, but here it is important. DNA elements which can switch their position are called as transposition. So the right option is D. Genes that are involved in turning on or off the transcription of a set of structural genes are called. So genes that are involved in turning on or off of transcription of a set of structural genes. Are they operator genes? Are they redundant genes, regulator genes or polymorphic genes? So what happens in case of transcription? In case of transcription, there is a promoter sequence. Okay, and what happens? The RNA polymerase, this is the RNA polymerase that has to bind to the promoter sequence. But genes that are involved in turning on or off of the transcription of a set of structural genes. So what does this remind of? This reminds you of the operon system, okay, that there is always an operator present to the promoter and a repressor binding to the operator. And when repressor is bound to the operator, RNA polymerase cannot bind to the promoter, okay. And then repressor is removed by the inducer. And once the repressor is induced by the inducer, RNA polymerase can bind to the promoter region. So what is the right answer? The right answer is operator genes. So operator genes allow the functioning of the operon. And they are involved in turning on or off of the transcription of a set of structural genes. So the right option is A. Which step of translation does not consume a high energy phosphate bond? So again, in the previous part we discussed that this process of translation has a lot of steps, right? It has a lot of steps and then a lot of steps require energy. So always when you are studying this part of translation, try to learn it through diagrams. Try to write down everything and remember, which step, which enzyme comes, which step, which complex is formed, which step energy is consumed, which step energy is not consumed, okay. So which step of translation does not consume? Is it translocation? Is it amino acid activation? Is it peptidyl transferase reaction, or is it amino acid tRNA binding to the active ribosome site? So what is the right answer? Which step does not consume energy or does not consume a high energy phosphate bond? The right answer is peptidyl transferase reaction. Only the peptidyl transferase reaction does not require energy, okay? The amino acid tRNA binding to the ribosome involves initiation factors and energy in the form of GTP. So it is also important, when GTP is used and when ATP is used. So also remember that. Amino acid activation requires energy. The cleavage of ATP to AMP and PPI, again, what is used? Translocation requires an elongation factor and energy in the form of GTP. So, you must also go through this solution very nicely and remember where GTP is used and where ATP is used. Okay, because there can be questions like this and we have seen already in the previous videos if you have followed. So, the right answer is option C. 3 codons causing the chain termination are, and also when we were doing the video from the chapter, this was repeated many times. So which are the 3? It is UAA, UAG, UGA. So just repeat it like this, UAA, UAG, UGA, and you will remember it. And the right answer is answer number D. Termination codons are the stop signals which when encountered cause termination of polypeptide synthesis. Okay, these are UAA, also called as ochre, UAG amber, and UGA opal. And definitely now from this solution you should remember ochre, amber, and opal. Okay, UAA. If you remember the way I have been trying to tell you, UAA, UAG, UGA, then ochre, amber, opal. Ochre, amber, opal. Okay, so definitely remember this from here. Codons are determined by the sequence of bases on the DNA. Thymine is not present on RNA. This information I think everybody of us already knows. So the right answer is D. A mutation at one base of the first codon itself of a gene produces a non-functional protein. Such a mutation is called nonsense mutation, missense mutation, frameshift mutation, or reverse mutation. So what is the right answer? What is the mutation at one base of the first codon? The right answer is option B. It is missense mutation. Okay. And what is the other mutation? A nonsense mutation, a mutation bringing about early stoppage of polypeptide formation is a nonsense mutation. Okay. Then what is frameshift mutation? It is a type of gene mutation where there are reading of the codons is changed, due to insertion or deletion of nucleotides. So what happens in frameshift mutation? For example, these are the nucleotides and suddenly, there will be addition. So for example, let's say these are the nucleotides coding for 3 codons and suddenly now there will be addition of 1 nucleotide, let's say. Now this will completely change the reading frame. So now it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-7, 8, and this kind of mutation is called as frame shift mutation, okay, because it shifts the frame of reading of codon. And similarly, if one of the codons is removed, again it shifts the frame. Okay, but a mutation at one base of the first codon produces a non-functional protein, and such a mutation is a missense mutation. If a completely radioactive double-stranded DNA molecule undergoes 2 rounds of replication in a non-radioactive medium, what will be the radioactive status of the 4 resulting molecules? The best way to do such a question is to write it down. So, if a completely radioactive double-stranded, for example, let's say this is the radioactive molecule. Okay, now what are they saying? If a completely radioactive molecule undergoes 2 rounds of replication in a non-radioactive medium. Okay, so DNA replication is semi-conservative. In the first round, what will happen? The old strands that are radioactive will be conserved and a new strand. For example, this is the non-radioactive strand. This will be synthesized. Okay. So this already comes from before. And then there will be the second round of replication where again this one will be retained and then this one will be retained and the new ones will be there. And similarly for this one, this is this one and then this one is here and then the new strands will be synthesized. So what will be the radioactive status of the 4 strands? Half the number contains no radioactivity. All 4 still contain radioactivity. 3 out of 4 contain radioactivity. Radioactivity is lost from all 4. So what is the answer? The answer is 2 of them still retain radioactivity and 2 of them contain no radioactivity. So the right answer will be here option number A, half the number of contain no radioactivity, because you see these two contain no radioactivity and these two still contain radioactivity. So DNA replication is semi-conservative, that is at each replication one of the parental strands is retained and a new daughter strand is obtained. Thus only half of the parental DNA molecule is carried to the next generation. Okay, and always the best way to do such questions is, to write it down, give different symbols to different things, because it's an application based question and very easy to answer. So the right answer is A. Different mutations referable to the same locus of a chromosome give rise to. Read the question again. Different mutations referable to the same locus of a chromosome give rise to multiple alleles, pseudo-alleles, polygenes or oncogenes. So what is the right answer here? The right answer here is option A, multiple alleles. So multiple alleles are multiple alternatives or alleles of the same gene which occur in the population of same species. Okay, so these are multiple alleles that are multiple alternatives or alleles of the same gene. What is a polygene? Polygene is a gene, single dominant allele of which expresses only a unit of trait. Okay, polygenes are the genes controlling quantitative inheritances and oncogenes are cancer causing agents. Okay, so the right option here is multiple alleles, option A. During development of an organism, the product of one gene is required to activate another gene. Such gene products are called transcription factors, episomes, coenzymes, catalase. So read the question again. During development of an organism, the product of one gene is required to activate another gene. So what causes activation of a gene? So what is basically activation of a gene? That it can be expressed in the form of protein. So for example, the first step would be the DNA is converted to mRNA. Okay, and for that, what do you need? You need RNA polymerase and a set of factors called as transcription factors. And what do these transcription factors, like where do they arrive from? What is the composition? So these transcription factors are all proteins. So where do proteins come from? Again, proteins come from mRNA and mRNA comes from DNA. Okay, is it clear? It's a bit of tricky question, but if you understand it well, it is fine. So during development of an organism, the product of one gene, that is the product of one gene that produces the transcription factors, it is required to activate another gene, because then these transcription factors go and bind to the DNA and start the process of transcription. Okay, I hope it is clear. Just remember that these transcription factors are also proteins that are coded by genes on DNA. In eukaryotes, separate protein factors take part in recognition and initiation during transcriptions, and they are called as transcription factors. Okay, and these transcription factors are generally proteins. That is why they have a gene sequence on DNA. Coenzymes are non-protein organic cofactors which get loosely attached to the apoenzyme during the functioning of the holoenzyme. Okay. So what happens? These cofactors, they basically attach to the apoenzyme and makes it a complete enzyme. So what can happen, that these transcription factors can sometimes bind to certain cofactors, and then once they bind to the cofactors, then they attain their full properties. Okay, and also coenzymes, they sometimes bind to certain enzymes, and then they make those enzymes complete. Okay, but for this question you need to remember, and otherwise also, that transcription factors are proteins. Right option is A. In eukaryotes, after transcription of mRNA, some of its nucleotides are removed before it is translated into polypeptide. The nucleotides which are removed from the mRNA are called. So in eukaryotes, after transcription of mRNA takes place, okay, some of the nucleotides are removed before it is translated into polypeptide. So what happens in case of eukaryotes, that when DNA is transcribed, the first transcript that is formed is the pre-mRNA, and then it is processed to form the mRNA. And what happens during this process here is processing of the pre-mRNA, where sequences called as introns are removed from exons. If you remember, this has been discussed previously also. For example, these big sequences are the exons. The introns need to be removed so that the exons, that are the expressed sequence, are joined together, and then this can be translated to a protein. This is again a recurring question and a very easy and direct question. So eukaryotic RNAs contain non-coding intervening sequence called as introns. The process of removal of introns through cutting and joining the essential coding sequence is called as splicing, okay, and the essential coding sequence is called as exons. So the right option is D. So Okazaki fragments are seen during the process of transcription, translation, replication, or transduction. So what is the right answer? The right answer is Okazaki fragments are seen during replication of the lagging strand. Okay, so replication of DNA is discontinuous over the lagging strand, over which only small stretches of DNA are built due to opposite running of the DNA template. Okay, so for example, this is the replication fork here. One of the strand, which is the leading strand, is synthesized continuously, and the other strand, which is the lagging strand, is synthesized discontinuously. This is because DNA polymerase acts only in 5' 3' direction. Okay, the small stretches of DNA are called as the Okazaki fragments. So the right option is C. The translation termination triplet is, again, what are the three codons? Stop codons UAA, UAG and UGA. So just remember that, and the right answer here is option number B. Termination codon triplet are the stop signals which, when encountered, cause termination of polypeptide synthesis. The termination codons are UAA, UAG and UGA. So the right option is B. So we will be uploading more questions from this chapter, and keep practicing. Thank you for watching the video.